In October of 2008, Barack Obama stood before the country and declared that he was just 5 days away from fundamentally transforming the United States of America. The crowd went wild. They cheered, they clapped, and they waved their signs in the air labeled with the 3 words, "Change we need." The statement may have been enough to send a shiver down the leg of liberal host Chris Matthews, but conservatives found themselves responding with one simple question. Transform America into what? Barack Obama has never been one to tell the truth or keep his promises, but his declaration of a coming transformation in October of 2008 was certainly an exception. He kept his promise. He did exactly what he said he was going to do. I've always been one to stay optimistic and look at the glass half full. But to ignore the current unrecognizable state of America would be to ignore reality. Our capitalist system is on its deathbed. Our immigration laws are based more on political correctness than on the rule of law and the Constitution. Our southern border remains wide open, despite the fact that the Islamic State has made repeated threats to use it as an entrance point into our country. Liberty is under attack on all fronts, whether it's the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth, the Ninth, and the 10th. We are being transformed from within, from a nation of freedom to a nation of big, centralized government. And yet therein lies the basic principle that our friends on the left will never understand. Liberty and big government can never and will never coexist. Liberty entails the notion of self-governance and individual responsibility. Big government stands for the opposite. Liberty coincides with the idea that we the people are free to pursue our own interests to the fullest extent, so long as it is done in a moral and lawful manner. Big government stands for the opposite. Liberty is based largely on the basic tenets of the Enlightenment, which among other things said that the people are the masters and the governing body are the servants. Big government believes in the opposite. Barack Obama may call his anti-liberty, anti-constitutional agenda fundamental transformation. I call it fundamental destruction. The threats we face today are very real. They are not to be ignored or handled with minimal resistance, as our Republican leadership seems to do time and time again. Rather, the threats of progressivism must be confronted head-on with boldness, fearlessness, and an articulate case for American conservatism. Ronald Reagan said it best when he said that freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It wasn't passed on to our children in the bloodstream. Freedom, Reagan said, must be fought for, protected, and handed on for our children to do the same. Last year I was working on a project with the Leadership Institute, one of the best organizations I know of that is 100% committed to training the next generation of conservatives. I had the opportunity to personally reach out to hundreds of freedom-loving patriots on the Leadership Institute's mailing list, telling them about an experience I had with a liberal professor during my sophomore year of college. Over the weeks that followed, I received hundreds of letters in the mail from all corners of the country. Some from conservatives just a few years older than myself, and others nearing the end of their lives. All of the letters were remarkable in their own ways, but one in particular reminded me of what it is that we as conservatives are fighting for. The note was from an elderly woman named Wilma from the state of California. She wrote, "I will be 90 years old soon and can no longer keep up with all the problems in our country. I am afraid that our generation will soon be gone. They knew our country when it was absolutely wonderful. I am glad that my brother, who sacrificed his life in World War II, cannot see what a mess we have made of our once near-perfect land." What was it that Wilma's brother was fighting for? Did he pick up a gun and rush onto the battlefield for free college? Did he die for the right of Americans to collect welfare checks from their government, for the EPA, or for Obamacare? Or was he fighting for something else? The truth is, Wilma's brother was fighting to keep America, America. And if this man and millions more are willing to make the ultimate sacrifice for the country that they love, which, by the way, is not the country Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton want us to become, then I think the least we could do is raise our voices, resist, and fight back. In addition to exposing the lies and destructive nature of progressivism, we as conservatives also need to do a better job of articulating what it is that we stand for. Far too often we allow the left to brand us as racists, sexists, bigots, homophobes, the list goes on and on. And while you and I know that these assertions are not true and not based in fact, the left's strategy of branding and name-calling has proven to be extremely effective. Ask any typical young person what they think a conservative is, and they'll tell you that it's a rich, white, out-of-touch old guy because they heard it on Bill Maher the night before. It's really quite simple. The first step to reinstating liberty and constitutional conservatism in this country is to properly define it. So let's set the record straight. Being a conservative means to look beyond race, religion, ethnicity, and sexual orientation, and instead see people for who they really are at their core. Americans with unlimited potential. We strongly believe in the idea that everyone can become successful, and everyone can dream big. Everyone can pursue happiness, no matter what societal background they come from. Why? Because this is the United States of America, the greatest nation on earth. As conservatives, we see the importance of abiding by the Constitution and protecting it from those who seek to pervert it. We are not radical extremists, but we will always fight to keep tyranny chained to the ground, just as our forefathers did over 200 years ago. Conservatives also understand that each and every one of us is unique. We all have different talents, different skills, and different things that motivate us. Therefore, using government to create an equal outcome not only doesn't make sense, but it is also impossible. Instead, we conservatives cherish the idea of equal opportunity. That is, the ability and freedom to live your life the way you want to and achieve as much success as your heart desires. You know, I'm only 22 years old, but one day I hope to have kids of my own. And while it might not be the most common thing on the minds of young people, I often find myself thinking about what kind of future my children and my children's children will have. I wonder what kind of country they are going to grow up in. Will liberty be a true, living and breathing way of life? Or will it merely be something my children read about in school history books? In 1787, during the Constitutional Convention, George Washington sat in a chair with the image of a sun carved into the back of it. Throughout the summer, Benjamin Franklin found himself constantly looking at that chair and wondering whether the sun was rising or setting. After the debates were over and the signing process had begun, Franklin was quoted as saying, "I have often looked at that behind the president without being able to tell whether it was rising or setting. But now I know," he said, "that it is a rising sun." Today, many conservatives find themselves asking the same question that Ben Franklin was asking in 1787. Is America a rising sun or a setting sun? Are our best days still ahead of us, or will our glory days remain in the past? The answer to that question lies in the hearts and in the minds of all of you. My fellow conservatives, we can do this. Though the Founding Fathers are resting peacefully in the kingdom of God, their blood courses through our veins. We have the knowledge, the will, and the protection of divine providence on our side. Power so great that not even the devil himself could chain us down. With faith and perseverance, I truly believe that we can restore this country, not only for ourselves, but for our children and grandchildren as well. We have to. It is our duty. So raise your voice a little bit louder and keep up the fight. I'll see you back out on the battlefield. Thank you.